Today's episode is sponsored by Flex Socks. Get your new flexible high socks. Use these Flex Socks for morning runs or evening strolls. They're easy and comfortable on the legs and feet. Pick up a pair now, sold at your LUHS school store. Good morning, Synetics. My name is Luke Urback, and you're listening to the LUHS Sports Talk Podcast, where we talk everything sports. COVID affected the beginning of the NFL season in multiple ways. It wasn't just the NFL, all sports were affected by COVID. The NFL season ended right before the COVID outbreak happened. The NFL had to make sure everything was in order to take the steps they needed to take to continue their season. The draft was done virtually instead of face-to-face. Training camp was also a big issue because many players tested positive during that period. Those players were put on the COVID/injury reserve list. At that point, they did, however, cancel the preseason for players' and coaches' safety. The preseason was originally scheduled to be played in August and have 4 preseason games. They had then cut it to 2 weeks, but eventually they cut the preseason as a whole. An article by Tad Haslop from SportingNews.com explains the cancellation of the preseason further. In that article, he talks about how the league and the NFL Players Association had a meeting to finalize health and safety protocols. COVID has also affected NFL coaches and players. The league gave each staff member and player a device that tells them where they have been and who they have been near. This is to make sure that if a player tests positive, the team and league knows where that player has been and who they have been near. Coaches and players also have to wear masks or face shields while on the field. Each player also has to have their own water bottle for safety reasons. Players also had to decide if they even wanted to play this season. Some of the key players that have opted out this season are Damian Williams of the Kansas City Chiefs, Devin Funchess of the Green Bay Packers, C.J. Mosley of the New York Jets, and Eddie Goldman of the Chicago Bears. Recently, there has been an outbreak of players testing positive for COVID. One example of this is the Tennessee Titans. Both the Minnesota Vikings and Tennessee Titans have had to shut down their facility because of this outbreak. The Titans and Vikings game was postponed to a later date. Over 8 players and coaching staff members on the Titans had tested positive. There were also multiple positive tests after the facilities were already shut down. There is also limited capacity for fans, and most stadiums don't even allow fans at this point in the season. Even the Packers announced that they will have no fans this year for their home games. An article by FoxNews.com tells us that over 61 players opted out at the beginning of the season. The next sponsor of today's video is Stretchy Gloves. Get your ultra new stretchy gloves that expand to any hand size. They have a great grip for footballs and baseball bats, and they are sold at your LUHS school store. There has been many differences and similarities between how COVID has affected high school football and the NFL season. Some of the differences for NFL players is that they cannot go out after a game, and they also have to get tested every week and before game day for each team that they play. When a team has one player test positive, they first look to see who that player has been around to make sure that they do not also have COVID. When a player tests positive right before game day, they usually cancel or postpone the game to a later date. When more than one player tests positive, they usually have to wait until there is no negative so that they can play their game. If not, they postpone that game to a later date when the team is able to play again. The Tennessee Titans just got in trouble because they were practicing at a high school football field, and you are not allowed to do that The Titans players are expected to be fined for this act. Some NFL coaches refuse to wear masks and they are fined for not wearing them. I sent some questions to Mr. Barutha, the head coach of the LUHS football team, and this is what he said.
How has COVID affected your preparation for the football season? COVID has affected us in multiple different ways. We never thought as a football coaching staff that we would have to assign players individual locations within the locker room, outside the boys' PE locker room in the high school, and different areas to change. We also didn't think that we'd have to figure out how we were going to get water out to the players, what timeouts look like as it related to water, how we were going to get players water breaks, despite the fact that they have to bring their own water, and how we were going to handle a lot of the logistics that COVID has presented us, like sanitizing footballs all the time, sanitizing equipment, the travel situation where we can't have more than one player sitting in a seat at a time for a bus ride, despite the fact we have, 55 people total traveling for a road varsity football game between players, coaches, support staff, trainer, etc. And so from those things, it has created a lot of logistical issues that we never really anticipated or
So overall, every aspect of football has been affected. From COVID affecting the beginning of the NFL season and how it has affected NFL coaches and players, and also how it affected high school football and NFL football and the differences and similarities between the two. What I want you, the listener, to do is to make a difference in the way that we play sports. Next time you go out to do any athletic activity, make sure you are taking the correct safety precaution. Due to the rising number of positive COVID tests, you should also consider staying home. Instead of going to the stadium, try to watch the games from your TV. There are plenty of sports networks provided to you like NFL Network and NFL Sunday Ticket. There is also many college-level TV channels that you can listen to, as well as at the high school level. We have LUHS Sports Media Production YouTube channel. Our final sponsor of today's show is Wirephones. Get your new and improved wireless headphones. Use them before game day, after a game, or anywhere that you would like. These are great Bluetooth headphones and stay connected from long distances, sold at your LUHS school store.